My name's Kyle, and this is going to be a continuation off of the last video where I discussed what love was. And today we're going to discuss what lust is, since as we had talked about, lust is basically this inversion of love. And love is this drawing to itself, because as we had talked about in other videos, everything must interbe. If there is a flower in nature, there must be some type of pollinator, there must be a bee, something to move it around, and the bees require there to be flowers because they make their honey off of it. And because of these two, they are required to interbe. If you want to hear more on this talk, please check out one of the prior videos on the interconnected nature of life. Now, the idea of lust that people typically have within their mind comes, or at least I believe is slightly diluted by the scientific method that's existed, because it basically portrays all of existence as being simply to reproduce, and the rest of our experience is just anecdotal. Which that may be a function of reality, but that is not the truest nature of the world, because we are drawn to experience ourselves. We are one cohesive being, talking to ourselves, living out this way, because this is the most exciting way for us to exist, the most self-fulfilling, most self-discovering, because only by losing yourself are you able to find who you are. The same way you don't know what you stand for until you're in an argument with someone, because you don't know every opinion that you have. You don't spend all day looking up cross-sections of different things or trying to think out reality. It's only when you have moments of tension that you're able to truly gather them and process the difference. So, I was talking to some Jehovah's Witnesses a few days ago, and they had said that the reason things go bad, as humans perceive, the reason that there's lust, the reason that there's all of this tension in the world, is because when humans started to deviate and say, hey, we know what we're doing, and stopped listening to this organic structure of love, when we moved out of historically goddess worship, when we moved out of pre-communism, which are all things you can look up. These are documented structures of reality or human history. When we moved out of them, we moved into this time where we started being more driven by the self and our own desires. And by doing this, we have kind of instilled this idea that we are correct and we are right and we are the ones that are accurate. However, that's not necessarily a lie. We have a lot of knowledge based on things, but the problem is that, as Terence McKenna had said, to date, the process of understanding has radically brought us away from truly knowing anything. So, lust isn't just the physical desire to have sex the way that I think a lot of people kind of portray it, because lust is this attachment to having something. It's, once again, by me saying, I want to be the prettiest me I can be. I want to have the nicest sunrise in the background with the nicest beach because no one else is out here right now. That this is lust, the idea of this construct, or taking all of those Instagram photos of you looking really nice, or posting your life on Snapchat, basically turning yourself into a walking cell phone, extrapolating your existence into that type of reality. Now, the truer nature of lust is because you're desiring something in the future. It brings you out of right now. It's because you start wanting something and picturing it. And that's not to say that this is useless. The problem is that when your entire view on reality and how you should work is structured in a time that isn't right now, it brings you out of the moment. It takes you out of touch with what's going on. It pulls you out of the five senses you have and just leaves you in the mind, which, although the mind is, the instrument that allows the five senses to work and it makes predictions on the future, by not actually living in the moment and spending so much time working towards some goal, you might not actually notice what's going on. So for example, if a grapevine or a fruit tree had this concept of the future and they were all too busy just focusing on the fruit they were going to produce, they would never notice that it hadn't been raining enough this season and they weren't holding on to the water in their trunk the way they needed to. Or if it was too wet, they would, not be rationing their nutrients properly. So the problem is, basically, lust is this desire to have something that's not right now. And it can exist within all things. Lust can exist within love, because if you're saying, I want to have the perfect lover, I want to have, the nicest date, it takes you away from the fact that you might be having the greatest date you've ever had, but you're nitpicking small things and trying to move in some direction that may not ultimately be appropriate for you. And that is okay. Completely okay. You're allowed to want things. You're allowed to structure your life towards them. The issue is you should be aware of the fact that you're desiring for something in the future, so that way you're not just repetitiously walking off towards infinity instead of realizing that this right now, this is all there is. People do drugs, they seek higher positions in jobs, they want alcohol, all of the vices people have. They gamble so they have more money, they cheat on their partners because they want that new rush of attention and affection. And that moves them away from what is right now, from what's happening. It moves you into this abstraction, because at this point, if you don't get what you want that you picture in your mind, or you're anxious about the future, you're suffering your mind, and living in the past would be, suffering from memory. There is only one moment right now, as Siddhartha Gautama had said, or even Jesus has noted in the Gospel of Thomas. He says, if heaven is in the sky, the birds will beat us there, and if heaven is in the ocean, the fish will beat us. Look around. This is heaven. This is our Eden. We've never lost what we always were. This is how we're meant to be, even if it doesn't seem appropriate to you. The world is perfect. Everything is copacetic. Thank you for watching. I love you.